Well, hi! Welcome back to No Straight Answers, the podcast where we talk to LGBT plus people about what's on their mind and generally have a good old chinwag. No offence, cis-hets, but you've got enough platforms. I'm Jen, or Jenegade Master if you're nasty.
Back once again with the Jenegade Master.
Pre-COVID comedian, Twitch streamer, and YouTuber. They are real jobs, despite what my mum says. Today, we're talking to the effervescent DarnItDibble, top-notch Twitch streamer and all-around cool guy. I didn't make him cry. Okay, I did, but it was for happy reasons. Really enjoyed this one, and nobody tried to set fire to their own house this time, so I'll consider that a win. Enjoy! So with me today is DarnItDibble. Would you like to tell us about yourself, Dibble?
Yeah, I'm Dibble. I'm 25, and I am a trans non-binary man, and I've just started doing Twitch, and that's about all I do. That's me.
I wasn't expecting the age to be thrown in there. That's kind of like a Tinder bio. I like it.
I like long walks on the beach.
Yeah.
A Long Island iced tea, just so everyone knows.
So I want to talk to you today, Dibbs, basically to get your viewpoint on some stuff and how you feel about things, and if there's anything that's bothering you. We'll see where the conversation goes. So, Dibble, tell me what you think about Pride.
I'm quite a fan of Pride. I've been twice. Once when I was 14, wasn't out, and was trying to discover myself. And the second time I went, I was 23, and it was my best friend's hen do. Everyone there was queer in the party, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. It's definitely, I think, become a lot more commercialized.
Okay.
In recent years, with like having to pay to get into places rather than it just being a celebration of queer people as a whole. But I still think that it's a good thing for us to have, because it makes it just makes the LGBTQ community more accessible to people.
Yeah.
As some people aren't able to find safe places on the internet or join groups because of various different reasons. But when it's just there, and people are out and proud and just being who they are, that sometimes is just enough for someone to be like, oh, that's me. I'm like this person. I'm like that person. Which can be really helpful to a lot of people, especially like young people that are trying to figure out who they are.
I think it's really interesting that you phrase it like that, because I think for me, like I've said before, that the first one I went to, I was literally in my 30s because I was a super good ally, and it was like, I shouldn't be there, basically. So the first one I went to is when I was questioning, and I didn't tell my parents I was going, because I was living back with my parents, because it was a post-divorce thing. I was living back with my parents. I didn't tell them I was going to it because in Cardiff, they merge it with something called the Big Weekend, which ties into that commercialization thing, certainly. And it's a whole other discussion. It's got other issues. Yeah. But I went there, didn't tell anybody, and it was like I was able to sneak in. It's like this whole argument for having like ally in the LGBT plus thing, because sometimes people do have to say that they're an ally as they're sort of like to stay safe. So I think in my case, I went on my own, and I went there and I spent most of my time just walking around the sort of the shop bits, and people are giving you stickers and all that kind of stuff. But just being there really opened up something for me, because I was just seeing other people being really comfortable in themselves, and you were like, oh, maybe this is an option for me. There are people like me, and they're out and about and having the best time of their life.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think sometimes people in the LGBT community, especially those that have more privilege than others, kind of forget that not everyone is safe to be out. And a lot of it comes down to people's upbringings and stuff and the things that they've experienced. But like bisexual person might go to Pride and be in a straight passing relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And they might have to say they're straight because maybe their partner's not comfortable with them being bisexual, or their parents, or whatever it is. We have to make room for those people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another reason why, like, say, for example, straight people playing gay roles in media.
Yeah.
I think it is really important that we have representation in the actors that play those parts, but also the people that are playing those parts could be in the closet and you just don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I think there's an aspect of that touches on something else, I think, which is like, you know, when people kind of make judgments about other people, like they try and put labels on people without that person necessarily saying it. Like the example that comes to mind for me is I forget what his partner's name is, but there's a guy called Phil. Dan and Phil YouTubers, who for the longest time everyone was going, they're definitely together, they're definitely in a relationship, they must be gay, and the entire time they were sat there going, we're not, and nobody listened to them. And then of course when there was a coming out video, everyone's like, oh well, we knew. And I feel like there's an aspect of that really diminishes their coming out story. It kind of takes away their power a little bit.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are like, it happened with one of my old friends. She came out as a lesbian, and her big sister basically went, yeah, I know. And that was it. And I think you need to give people their moment when they come out, because it's such a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Huge.
Like, so it's such a personal journey that you go on to find out who you are as a person. And to hear something like that is just like, well, if you knew, why did I spend 5 years trying to figure out who I am? If you could just tell, you know?
I felt like that after I came out, where it was just like, because like my parents were kind of not bothered by it. I don't think they were surprised, but they didn't say we knew, because they didn't know. But because I was so old, everyone was just like, all right, do what you want. But my attitude to it was, when I was in school, of course, kids are assholes. We know this. There was so much throwing about of, you're a lesbian, blah, 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 to me. Like, I used to think back on that stuff and think, if you knew, right, if you knew for definite, why didn't you tell me? Like, you threw it at me, but if you meant it, like tell me properly. Say you're definitely gay. I would have taken that. That would have saved me about 5 years of agony. I'll be honest with you.
Exactly. But there's another thing. This is more to do with the trans community than the wider LGBTQ plus community. But there's this thing called egg culture. Okay.
I've not heard of egg culture, but please enlighten me.
So basically, it's like when a person is like a very good ally to the trans community, or is very passionate about making sure that people are safe and stuff, and then later on they come out as trans themselves, a lot of people will say, oh, they were an egg that cracked.
Okay.
As in,
all right.
They didn't know that they were trans and then later came out as trans, which I have a few opinions about.
Please tell me the opinions, Dibbs.
I personally don't like it because there's a lot of people on like Twitter and Tumblr and all those sorts of places that will use it to put someone in a box so that they have representation in a field that they enjoy. So, for example, there's a YouTube channel called Game Grumps, and one of the guys on it is called Aaron Hansen, and he's a straight, white, cisgender male.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very open about that, but he's also very like, in touch with his feelings, and he's very effeminate, and he is very close with his male friends. Like, they'll like hug and talk about very serious topics on their show that they do on YouTube. But people have taken that fact that he knows who he is, and basically say, oh well, he's just an egg. One day he'll come out as trans, or he'll come out as non-binary, or whatever. And he had to make a statement on Twitter saying, that's not right, that's not who I am. Please don't do this.
I find that so disrespectful. I really do.
Because even if he is trans, you don't get to decide when a person comes out, or how they come out about it. If they even come out about it in public, you don't get to choose that.
It's kind of none of your business either way, isn't it? It's nothing to do with you. I also feel like it ties into that thing as well about this whole gender stereotyping thing. So he is saying explicitly he is a straight cis male. So you should believe him in that. So just because he's effeminate or what have you, he's quite in touch with his feminine side, if you want to say it that way. Just because that's a thing, I mean, men can be like that. There's nothing to say that men can't hug their friends and they can't be touchy-feely. That's totally fine. Exactly. It's not banned because you're a man.
Yeah, it just like separates people even more than they need to be separate. Like, every person is their own individual person. But yeah, like, coming off of that, I wanted to talk about like representation.
Okay, it's a good one, I think.
For LGBTQ people, because I've been watching this season of US Drag Race.
Okay, yeah, love Drag Race, as we know.
Yeah.
For the listeners' benefit, we have a RuPaul and Merle and Santino type t-shirt on, which used to be on Redbubble but got ripped down for copyright infringement. Please tell me about Drag Race.
Well, Gottmik, who's currently in the top 4 for this season, is a trans man, and he's absolutely amazing at what he does. Mm-hmm. He's a brilliant makeup artist and a brilliant drag artist, and he is changing the landscape of drag. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Wow.
But he said something that really stuck with me, because in one of the episodes the queens were talking about representation and how when they grew up there were or there weren't people like them on TV. Mm-hmm. And Gottmik said that he never saw anyone that was like him, ever.
Yeah.
Because all the trans characters that were on TV, if they were trans women, they were Barbies, and if they were trans men, they were Ken. There was no in between.
Yeah, totally.
And I've felt that way as well, because I'm like Gottmik. I'm quite, I guess effeminate is the word, but like, you know, I'm just who I am, and I don't necessarily want like a exact copy of me to be in a TV show or something.
No.
But like, seeing Gottmik on Drag Race made me realise, oh, okay, maybe I'm not so weird. Maybe there are men like me that just, I don't know.
That's lovely, though.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not from a trans perspective, but from a queer perspective, I went through a similar thing when I was working out myself. Like, I still haven't nailed down a label at all. I still haven't got one, and I think that's fine. But I found that in my case, women that were into women were either incredibly like high femme, proper lippy, all this kind of stuff, or they were very, very quite butch lesbians. And I thought, well, I don't think I fit in either of them. I'm not, like, I like just being comfortable. I'll be honest with you. I don't mind putting a little bit of slap on for stream, but most of the time can't be bothered. And it's like, because I never saw that kind of midpoint, I thought, well, maybe I'm not gay. Probably not. Probably just a straight woman in denial or whatever, you know? So I think it's fine to say that representation is really, really important because it helps you see other people. I mean, going back to the sort of pride side, that's also, again, what helped me was going to pride and seeing other people like me to go, oh, actually, this is just a normal thing. That's what everybody's like.
Yeah, it makes it just so much easier for you to be comfortable when you're like, okay, there's other people like me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Like, I don't need to worry as much. Even if I don't come out to anyone, like, I know that I'm not on my own, and that's great, you know?
I think in some ways coming out to yourself is like the hardest part. Like coming out to other people is awful. And you know, I've said before that I was in pieces. The day before I had to come out to my parents, I was sobbing my heart out. But I think it took so much longer to come out to myself, to go, well, you can't be into women. All these years of dating men and going out with men, it's like, and if I'm honest with myself, right, I went out with a lot of men because they asked. I won't lie to you, I just didn't like saying no. I had like years-long relationship with men that just because they asked, I wasn't that attracted to them to start with. That's how you get in trouble.
Oh,
so talking about representation then, I want to talk a little bit about Abigail Thorn.
Ooh.
So Abigail Thorn runs the YouTube channel Philosophy Tube. And I've watched her videos for absolutely donkey's years, right? So her whole thing was she started her channel when the sort of university tuition fees went up because she wanted to use her degree in philosophy to sort of bring philosophy to everybody. I found her stuff really, really interesting. And then in January, she came out as a trans woman. And she was very, very public about the fact that, you know, she's got this entire history of stuff on YouTube where she was presenting as a man. There is an incredible video that she made in her former life, which is about transphobia. And right up front, and this is what I love about her, she's basically gone back to comment on that video. So in the first like 10 seconds, she says, I am a cisgender man, therefore I don't understand, you know, this aspect of it from that perspective, blah, blah, blah. And she's put a comment and pinned it at the top of that video to say, well, this is this is a curious thing to watch back now, isn't it? But I think she's just been quite open about the fact that I didn't know then what I know now, and now I know that thing, and it's fine. And I think she's been quite a really positive role model for people. Do you watch much
definitely.
of her?
Yes, I do. In fact, her video Identity, a trans coming out story, was she does a bit at the end of the video where she explains how she was feeling through the metaphor of having a crappy job.
Okay.
And that metaphor made me realise that I was trans. And
wow.
It took me a good hour.
So is this the one in January, Dibbs? Wow, okay. Blimey.
Yeah. Because from the age of about 16, 17, I'd say, I knew that I was not cisgender.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't feel right to be called a woman. But I didn't want to explore it any further because I was like, that's a whole box of things. You're going to close the lids.
We've all been there. We'll just put a little away. That'll probably go away. It'll be fine. We'll just tuck it in a cupboard and not think about it, and then it'll just evaporate. It's all right.
Exactly. And then you go back into the cupboard like 10 years later, and the box has turned into a monolith.
It's going, listen to me, you bastard.
So yeah, that was an interesting time for me, let's say.
Wow. How did that feel then? Because that's a really recent thing.
Yeah, it was the like relief that I had after realizing was like phenomenal. Phenomenal. Sorry, Liz.
You can do it. I believe in you.
You need to oil Sykes me.
I could never oil Sykes you, Dibbs. We know this.
And it just like everything that was going on in my life, like I don't mind saying I'm very open about talking about like my mental health and stuff. At that point, I'd been off work for 3 months with severe depression and moderate anxiety.
Mm.
And I didn't understand where all the feelings were coming from. And
Oh, wow.
I had like CBT sessions to try and help figure out what was going on. And everything was just, it felt like everything was like piling on top of each other. And like all the little things that I could usually deal with, I just couldn't deal with anymore.
Oh,
And then after seeing that video, I was like, that is it. That's why
That's the reason.
That's why everything's too much for me, because I'm not being who I am. And after that, I was like, right.
Holy shit, dude. That's incredible.
So I've been like coming out to people at a relatively slow pace, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think the more that you do it, the easier it gets. You sort of have like a checklist in your head of things you have to say. Sort of becomes a monologue that you just kind of perform. Yeah, like the difference I feel now is insane. Like I couldn't. It kind of feels like I've wasted a few years.
Yeah.
But then, like if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't be like sat here talking to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I was talking to my partner, and it was weird because I was like, I feel like I've wasted like 5 years or so of not being myself.
Dibbs.
But also, if I hadn't done that, we wouldn't be together.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, because when we met, he identified as straight, and now he's like, well, I'm in love with you, so
yeah. And it's about the personality.
Yeah.
That's so, what you said there really kind of like stung me a little bit, I think. So again, very, very similar story. Along the sort of path to coming out, I was depressed, and I was seeing a counsellor and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, I kind of had to go through that to accept within me that it was okay to not be straight anymore.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's like, it's a really difficult thing to accept to yourself, I think, along the way.
Yeah, definitely.
And I felt the same as you, in that there's a huge, huge part of me that really wishes I knew this like 20 years earlier, even. That would have, like, I could have had a youth of exploring things and what have you, instead of just being this old fogey, you know, who's gonna probably die alone with a house full of dogs. But, you know, it's like, and then there comes that point where I really, really wish that I hadn't had to go through it that way. But equally, going through it that way has given me this huge level, I think, of empathy for other people in the same situation. So things like not labeling people that don't want to be bloody labelled, that's in there, because it's like, look, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But A, they might not even bloody know yet. B, it's up to them. Don't you take that away from them. That's their story to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, then, let's talk about something a little bit happier. So, okay, go back to Drag Race. So I found with Drag Race, and I think it was interesting to talk to Kate the other week, because I think she challenged a few of my preconceptions with stuff. So I've said that I really, really struggle with this separating art from the artist thing. So there are people that do terrible things, and I really, really struggle to then watch that thing. So certain children's book authors, for example, has entirely ruined their series for me. I cannot like even look at it. Like, I've got a Gryffindor mug in my cupboard that's in my cupboard, and I will probably never touch it again because I look at it and go, it's been tainted. But with Drag Race, I realised talking to Kate that I separate art from the artist with RuPaul all the time. So like, because RuPaul isn't not problematic. You know, with the whole fracking stuff, allegedly. Yeah. And like, Drag Race itself, I feel, has had a problematic past. Like, RuPaul has said some things that haven't been okay. Like when he first said that he'd never have trans people on, for example, because it wasn't real drag or whatever. Yeah. And, you know, he's since rolled back on that. and changed his mind on it.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that Drag Race is doing some better things these days. Like, the example I gave Kate was the fact that they crowned Lawrence Chaney, for example. So for decades, if you weren't basically a supermodel when you were in drag, you weren't winning that crown. You had to be thin and skinny and pretty.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that you were a comedy queen. It was irrelevant. Do you feel like they've made decent steps in the last few years?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I remember on the first few seasons when, like, RuPaul would call into the workroom, the announcement was, "Hey, you've got she-male."
Yes, yeah.
Which is disgusting.
Yeah, that's one of those jokes that feels like really, really kind of ignorant, where it's like, hey, that's a funny thing on the AOL announcement.
Yeah.
I get what you're doing, but also, did nobody say to you, maybe that's not the best
Maybe
idea?
Yeah. And also, RuPaul has changed what he says when they start a maxi challenge now.
Mm.
So instead of it being gentlemen, start your engines and may the best woman win.
Yeah.
It's now
It's racers, start your engines.
Start your engines and may the best drag queen win.
Yeah. See?
Which
tiny
is like
change.
it's a more inclusive way of
Yeah.
referring to everyone. And especially with Bimini Bon-Boulash and Ginny Lemon being on this season of UK's Drag Race. They both identify as non-binary. I think they're both gender fluid.
That was wonderful, wasn't it? Though?
Yeah, their conversation that they had was so just heartwarming to see. Two people just living their truth, just getting on with it, and just being able to have a conversation about it is really, really good to see. Because a lot of times, like, they'll just have one person representing a community, and then they don't really get a chance to talk about it because no one else knows about it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and it almost opened it up to kind of like the wider population as well, in that you've got two non-binary people having this conversation. They're talking about what it means to them to see somebody else who's non-binary.
Yeah.
And it's on, it's on a national television show that everybody bloody watches. And to just see them having that conversation is just lovely.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Who are you rooting for US Drag Race?
Oh, Gottmik.
Oh, that was a silly question, wasn't it? Who's
No bias.
in the final? I can't remember who's in the final.
It's Gottmik, Simone, Rose, and Candy Muse.
Oh, I do like Candy.
Yeah, I like all of them, to be honest. They're really good. I think either Simone or Gottmik will win. So.
I like Candy, but I think I'd be rooting for Gottmik because, again, I want Drag Race to be better. Crown a trans man, Rue. Come on, let's do it. Let's go, son. Okay, I would like you to tell me who your slay of the day is, please. So, hold on. Before, because this is kind of new. I didn't bring this in last week because I was trying... Hey, talking about language, I was trying to work out the most inclusive way of saying this because I couldn't say gay of the day because that felt too restrictive. I couldn't say queer of the year because I was also aware that some people don't want to be called queer and I don't want to assign that to somebody who doesn't want it. So I had a word with our friend Teddy Surgery who came up with slay of the day. So basically, I want to talk about, because this whole thing is about elevating queer voices and talking to people in the LGBT plus community. I also want you to teach me somebody new, preferably. So tell me who your slay of the day is.
Well, I was originally thinking of mentioning Abby Thorn. Because, she is amazing. What she's doing on YouTube, basically giving away a philosophy degree for free through the medium of costumes and song is brilliant, I think. But I have decided to nominate Dorian Electra as my slay of the day. They are a non-binary music artist, and they are very like high concept, high production, high everything.
Yeah.
Just absolutely. Well, their first album was called Flamboyant, and it was definitely that. Let me tell you.
So I Googled them. I didn't know who they were until you mentioned who they were. So I Googled them off the back of your recommendation, right? And I think there are two completely diametrically opposite songs that I found that probably illustrate how diverse they are. So we had this really beautiful cover, they're just sat on a box with a guitar, and they're singing "F the World," which is just a cover of "F the World," and it's just this really, really beautiful. And it's mentioned in the comments as well because they've dressed up in more like a femme presentation, and I think, looking through their videos, they sort of mess around with their presentation quite a lot, which I really enjoyed. Yeah. So they've got this really, really beautiful cover of "F the World." And then I found a cover of "Shape of You" by Ed Sheeran. And it's them seemingly in a car park, sat in a cardboard box with a microphone, and someone just like spinning the camera around them. And they're singing it. It's almost like it's an auto-tuned type thing. It's just like, it's the weirdest cover I've seen in my life. But I thought, I'm kind of down for it. I think I like it.
It's great. I think another good comparison is from their first album, Flamboyant.
I love that their album's called Flamboyant.
The title song of the album, in the video, there's like shots of them like playing at this giant beautiful white piano. There's shots of them like laying down on a fur rug in a robe with a rose. And then to sort of mirror that with their newest album, which is called My Agenda. They've got a song called Milady.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is basically, the video is them and a few of their friends like sat in this weird green dark room playing video games. There's Doritos everywhere, bottles of Mountain Dew. They dress up as like a hot sexy elf, and sort of dance around on a pole and cover themselves in Mountain Dew as well. And I just, everything is like a parody of a parody, almost, of like pop culture and meme culture and like internet culture as a whole, like how people react to things, like incels, but then also like Instagram influencers and stuff like that. They will just like make fun of everything and also like make everything fun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think that's something you wanted to touch on, isn't it? In that, in terms of like more positive representation in terms of media.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about
that? Yeah, I kind of wanted to mention representation in more of the, I guess, negative perspective, because like media in recent years has got a lot better.
Has it?
in like having more LGBTQ characters in it.
I suppose in terms of quantity, there are more people.
The quality is not so great. Because a lot of the representation that we have is very negative. Like, for instance, the kill all your gays trope, where a gay person in a film or a TV show will like have some trials and tribulations, and then at the end they manage to solve everything and they find the love of their life and everything's lovely, and then they get killed off for reasons that are unknown to most people.
Do you think the quickest example of that is in Supernatural? Because I didn't really watch Supernatural, because I don't know much about it, but one of the brothers came out as gay, and then in the same episode, it was like, he's going to hell now.
Oh, that was that was the angel Castile, actually.
Yeah.
He confessed his love for one of the brothers.
Oh, right, okay.
He also made a deal with a demon.
Of course, it couldn't be one of the brothers, because that's the main character.
No,
main character can't be gay.
No, exactly.
It's not okay.
He basically made a deal with a demon that when he found the thing that made him the happiest, he would go to super hell.
So not just hell, he went to super hell.
So yeah, he confessed his love for one of the main characters and instantly went to super hell.
That's incredible. Was it the second he confessed as well, or was it just
like a couple of minutes after? Like he just got just like, oh, cool. All right, love that.
Love that for him.
Love that for him.
Hope you're happy. Jesus Christ. Why is that a thing?
Yeah.
Well, we know why that's a thing, because of the bloody Hays Code. If you were gonna be gay, we had to dispose of you somehow, because we can't promote heterosexuality. No, homosexuality. I don't think we should promote heterosexuality.
Another one that comes to mind. I had to stop watching it actually because of what they did. Was Orange Is the New Black.
Oh, right, okay.
Spoilers, I guess, if anyone wants to watch it.
Spoilers for that show that has not finished now.
Yeah.
Spoilers for that show from a little while back.
So in season 4.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, one of the girls in the prison. She goes through quite a lot of stuff. And she, like, towards the end of the series, everything sort of gets cleared up and she's quite happy and she's got a girlfriend and things are getting better for her. But then, right at the end of the series, one of the guards of the prison kneels on her back and kills her. And I guess a trigger warning for anyone that's not okay with POC being treated like they're not human. But they also left her body on the floor in the canteen for 3 days.
No, I forgot about that aspect of it. Jesus.
I had to stop watching the show because I was like, I can't. Like, I watch TV shows like this that have people like me in it to escape, and I don't want my escapism to involve people in my community dying or being treated in that way. Like, I think they're important stories to tell. Like, It's a Sin is a great TV show.
Yeah.
And it's very important for us to know what has happened in our community in the past, and it's important to know, like, how we were treated, and like, we should learn from our elders and stuff. But also, like, that's a horrible thing to have to experience. Like, obviously it was horrible for the people that had to actually go through it, but to have that be one of the only representations of our stories in media is really disheartening. Like, I was terrified to come out to my mum because the only experience of coming out stories I'd had were people on TV being disowned by their parents or worse, you know? And I think we really need to question why our stories always have to have sad or negative connotations to them. When, like, we're just people living our lives. Why can't we have, like, cheesy Hallmark Christmas films where one lesbian works in an office and she hates Christmas, and then she meets another lesbian who loves Christmas, and they get together, and finally the first lesbian sees the joy of Christmas and they fall in love, and it's all very nice.
So,
And that's it.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Have you seen Happiest Season?
No.
Oh my God, you need to see Happiest
Have
Season.
I just described Happiest Season?
So basically, I mean, it's got its own issue where obviously, because there has to be disruption in a story, because that's just how storytelling works. And the disruption is around, oh God, I can't even remember because I only remember the happy bits. But the disruption is around their sexuality in some way. Oh, that's it. I know what it is. It's because one of them hasn't come out to her parents. That's what the thing is. So it all becomes this big drama and it had to involve their sexuality for some reason. So I wish that hadn't been the disruptor. But that whole movie is about one of them's massively into Christmas. The other one isn't that bothered by it. And then they go and meet her parents and they have this lovely Christmas together and all this kind of stuff, other than the fact that she's not telling her parents she's gay. But the whole thing is so beautiful. It's genuinely a happy movie. I want to caveat it's a sin, just on the basis that I completely agree with what you're saying, that everything is so bloody miserable and everybody's getting killed and all this kind of stuff. The only reason I would caveat it's a sin is because it feels to me like that's the kind of story that we should have heard in the 80s. And I don't think we heard it.
I agree.
Because because I was around when those gravestone adverts were happening. Or it's a killer, blah, blah, blah. And it's the really weirdest thing because of the way that my household was and the way the society was. In my brain, I'd always assumed that advert specifically basically said it's attacking gay men. I honestly remembered it as that. And I've watched it back since, and it doesn't say that at all. It does basically say everybody's at risk, because everybody was at risk. It kind of said, gay men were higher risk, if I remember rightly. But, of course, all the straight people watched that and went, oh, well, we're fine. It's just killing off the gays. It's all fine. So I feel like for It's a Sin, it was heartbreaking. But I also feel like I came away from it feeling like it was a story that these men had never had told before because they were ignored the entire time that was going on. Yeah. Nobody was paying attention to them because they didn't care. They were just like, oh, well, the gay people are dying, whatever. And no one saw their suffering. To go back to happier representation again, I want to talk to you about Love Victor, which I know you haven't seen yet. Yeah. But, oh my God, that is joyful. I have an opinion on the ending. Okay. Because, no spoilers, but basically it ends really, really abruptly. They've clearly gone, end it on a cliffhanger. We're going to get a second season, presumably. But I hate series doing that because if you don't get a second season, then you're fucked, right? But, yeah, in terms of Love Victor, there is an episode 8 in particular, and I'll probably touch on this with you in a minute. There's a section where he basically finds his chosen family. So while he's in the process of coming out to himself, he discovers other people that are like him. And it's just absolutely beautiful. It broke me. I was in absolute floods of happy tears by the end of it because it was just so nice. And I'm trying not to spoil it. But again, there's an aspect of, because he didn't just have one queer friend, he had a collection of queer friends. And they were all able to give him different pieces of advice depending on what they'd been through. Yeah. And I feel like that was really important for his coming out journey. How do you feel about chosen family? Have you met any? Have you gained your own sort of queer community?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that.
Am I in it?
It's gonna get very, very cheesy and I might cry.
Oh, please. Please. I love a bit of emotion, as you know. Oh, Dibbs! I didn't know you were actually going to cry. Bless you. Are you all right? We can move on to something else.
It was fine.
I'll cut this out. It's fine. Oh,
I wasn't
Dibble.
actually expecting to cry. That just came out.
Are they happy tears at least?
Woo. Yes, they are.
Okay.
So I would say that literally everyone that I've met this year on Twitch is my chosen family because everyone's been so supportive. I literally do not have a bad word to say about anyone because everyone's been so lovely and supportive and everyone in their own way has helped me throughout my journey and it's just been amazing to have so much positive energy from everyone.
Yeah.
Because I was genuinely terrified of coming out to my partner.
Yeah.
When I shouldn't have been because I know that he's he's a great guy and I love him to bits. But like the fear was still there because that's how we're like programmed to think
100%.
from the get-go, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone was like, well, if he loves you, then he'll accept you, and then if not, fuck him. You got us.
Yeah, you're better than that.
Was
Fuck
the,
it.
like, that was the census for everybody.
We took a poll and we all decided if he didn't accept you, then fuck him.
And it was just like people have been helping me with my Twitch journey, I suppose, and then like if I need help with anything like related to me or my journey or anything, people are always like eager to help out. And like I know like maybe outside of streams I won't talk to people a lot because I'm quite anxious. I'm like a nervous person as it goes, but like I know that if I ever needed to speak to someone, like it'd be like right there for me, and that is the most important thing. I think I absolutely love everyone that I've met this year. Like I think my journey would have been a lot different if I hadn't have met everyone. Because I like that first night that I watched that video, I basically messaged one of our friends and was like, "Mate, I need to speak to someone about this," and he was like, "Okay, let's jump through it." And then pretty much like straight after that, I came out in his Discord server, and everyone was like, "Cool, yeah, great, love you." And I was like, "Cool, I love you as well." And it was just a really positive, like, I don't really know how to describe it, but it was just like the best feeling that I've ever had.
Oh, mate.
To just be surrounded with people that were like 100% there for who I am and what I was about.
That's so lovely. It's interesting because I mean I say the same thing about Twitch family. Like I feel like this year I've met more people that are on my wavelength than ever before, and I'm talking about people I've known for like 15 years or whatever. I consider my Twitch family to be closer than those people. Similar reasons, because it's like, I mean, it's no secret that I was in a fairly horrific abusive marriage. So I came out of that, even though I went through counselling, I did have some baggage associated with it. So it was like, if I'm too clingy, I'm too clumsy, I'm too this, that, and the other, too fat, whatever. Like, which is just stuff that he used to tell me. And this year, I think, especially in terms of accepting my label as well, the Twitch lot have done more for me than anybody ever has, because it was 100%. Like they just accept you entirely as you are. I mean, me and Louis are like BFFs for life, I think, after this. And this is somebody I only met, 10 months ago. But she's somebody who refuses to let me talk myself down ever. When I said on stream that I wasn't straight, but I didn't know what the label was and all this kind of stuff, everyone was like, "It's okay, we love you anyway, it's all right, we're still here." And it's like you say, it's the fact that other people accept you in the entirety of who you are. It's something incredibly validating about it. It's like, no one gives a shit. Do what you want. We love you for you. Who cares?
Yeah. Like when I came out to my partner, he said, in a nicer way than I'm going to say, I will paraphrase.
Here we go. Please don't cancel your partner live on stream. That would be awful.
Before anyone even knows who he is. Like, he basically said, "I don't care what you are, who you are. Like, as long as you are still you as, like, your personality, you can do whatever you want, and I don't care, because I just love you and not like anything other than that. Like, I'm not in love with your gender, I'm not in love with the way you look, I'm in love with you, and that's all that matters. So if you want to like change it up or
change it up
change it up if you like, if he was like, if you feel that you're if that's who you are, then that's who you are, and I still love you.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't affect me either way. And I was like, okay, this went a lot better than I was expecting, but cool. No, I think a lot of, not to like keep going back to it, but like a lot of representation that we do have is like when you come out, it's very, very traumatic. Not just for you, but to the people that you come out to as well. So
yeah,
when you're planning to come out to someone, a lot of the time you spend more time thinking about how it'll affect the other person rather than how it affects you, you know?
100%.
Like when I came out to my mum, we went to we met up in a country park, all safe and COVID free, like
socially distanced from
all
humans.
And I told her, and I was fully prepared for her to like scream at me and get up and walk away and never speak to me again. I was like, okay, this is like, I need to tell her now, and if that's how she reacts, that's fine, because I just need to be me.
Yeah.
And that's just something I'm gonna have to work through and deal with. But she just sat there for a few minutes, like in silence, and just went, okay, I don't get it, but it's okay.
Okay,
I was
all
like,
right.
Okay, cool, thanks, Mum.
That's a step.
Like my mum's quite a sheltered person. She always has been from like from when she was a kid to now. I think it's to do with that sort of generation where they're not willfully ignorant, they won't go and learn something until it affects them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was like, yeah, I don't know anything about trans people.
Yeah.
I don't barely know anything about LGBT in general. So you'll have to like help and explain. But like, I'm here for you because you're my child. Like, and that's not gonna not be true, whatever your gender is, you know.
Oh, mate, so lovely.
And like, obviously, there's gonna be some things because like we're like, because obviously she's sort of like expected that my life would go on a sort of trajectory of maybe having kids or getting married in a wedding dress or whatever.
Yeah.
So like that's something that I've dealt with already. Like, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Put that away. But I understand that that's something that she's got to process herself, because that like, as someone's child, you are like basically a part of that person. Do you know what I mean? In a way.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine for people to, I suppose, mourn a loss of a person, but I think that can't overtake the new person that you are.
Yeah.
Like, they still need to accept that the person that they thought you were doesn't exist, and that you just need to get on with that. Like, I'm not gonna pretend to be a woman just because it would make you happy. I'm gonna be me.
I do feel like sometimes it can be really, really painful when you come out to say your parents and they don't immediately go, oh, okay, that's fine. And I think what really helped me with that aspect, because I mean, my parents are getting a lot better, and I'll talk about that in a minute now. But for me, when I came out, obviously I've spent like, by that point I'd had like 3 or 4 years of mulling it over, going back and forth, working out, oh my God, am I not? So I've had that much time to become used to it. And it's, you know, it's taken you that long to admit it to yourself that you aren't heteronormative. So then you tell your parents, and I think you've got to bear in mind that they've just heard this news. Because you spent 4 years worrying about it, they haven't had that 4 years. But I also find that since that happened, they've become so much better about stuff. So I presume my parents are from the same generation yours was, which was their media representation was all the gay people are bad. They're all going to die of AIDS. None of them can be happy, whatever. Yeah. So like to the point where when I was a kid, and I call this like that death by 1,000 cuts thing. So little things they used to say, they were never outrightly homophobic, but there would be things like we'd be watching Coronation Street and there would be two men in bed together just talking, as in they'd woken up in the morning, they were having a chat to each other like partners do. And my dad once went, do we have to watch this before the watershed? I remember thinking, wow, Liz McDonald is sat on a man's face in the middle of a pub. You're fine with that. Two men having a chat, not so much. So it's like, stuff like that used to shut me down entirely, where I was just like, well, that can never be you. But since I've come out to them, I'm finding that they're obviously doing their own research in some description. So like a couple of months ago, my father came over to my house and went, what does cis mean? I was like, where has this come from? But I'll tell you what a cis person is, fine. And then they also asked me what an asexual was. And I went, clearly, I think you're going down the alphabet, the LGBT plus list and going, right, what are all these people? What do they do?
What's the B? What's the T? So where's this I come from?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like because they've now got a vested interest in it, they've suddenly gone, well, I will take an interest in your community almost. And it's like, I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to do some research. And I love the fact that, they're in their 60s now and yet they're learning new shit.
Yeah, like I had a similar thing with my mum because when I came out to her, I was wearing my pink and purple tracksuit that I got from Boohoo Man, can I say?
That's illegal.
I told her, and she was like, "Well, if you're a man, why are you wearing pink and purple?" And I was
no!
Listen, Mum, we're not having this conversation right now. Like she said it as a joke, but like I knew what she was getting at. But she does want to learn. She does want to know. And my mum's got a bit of a issue with Googling things and then finding the first right-wing article that comes up and reading that and being like, oh, this is the truth.
The right-wingers are very good at SEO as well, so you've got to be careful.
And like she knows that that's not the way to go because she's been corrected by a few people about having opinions on things that she doesn't actually know anything about. So she's like asked me to like send her things for her and like send her like video essays. Like I asked her to watch Abby's coming out video because I was like, this is what made it like easy to understand for me, so maybe it'll work for you as well. So give it a watch and then let me know how you feel. And like she's been really good. She's been like studying, like she's got a test next week.
That's so cute.
But yeah, something else that she said to me that it like took me aback in a way, because I was on the phone to her and I said, I'm going to speak to my dad this week. They're not together and haven't been since I was like 3. And I was like, I don't really know how he's going to be. And she said, it'll probably be fine. He'll probably be like I was. He'll be a bit confused, think that it's come out of nowhere, but in the end it'll be fine. And I was like, what do you mean it's come out of nowhere? And she was like, well, didn't really see it coming. And it occurred to me that like I'd been like hiding this big thing since I was like 16. I hadn't told anyone really.
Yeah.
I only started telling people when I was about 20, and that was strangers on the internet because I felt that was safe. Yeah, it just really put it into perspective for me of how, like, I felt like I had to hide it for so long, and that I couldn't be truthful about it.
It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really, really sad. It's just that the society we live in, it puts it. I think that's why people get so depressed when they're hanging on to this gigantic secret. It weighs so heavy on you that it's like, how can you do anything else? Like if I'm going, like I started a new job when I was working out that I wasn't straight, and it was like I was walking into the office going, do I say anything? Do I not? Because my old workmates sort of knew that was possibly going to be a thing, and these guys obviously don't know me at all. And day one, the person that I managed works in London, and they'd come down to spend the week with me in Cardiff, and we spent the week together. And day one, she basically frog marched me into the LGBT plus network, and I was like, oh well, I'm out of this job then, and I
It's amazing.
but I got a rainbow lanyard out of it, so it wasn't all bad.
The best.
It's lovely. Do you want to have a little chat about Lindsay Ellis at all? Because I was rewatching her video, her pop culture transphobia video again last night.
Yeah.
And I think she touches on some really interesting points.
Yeah, sure.
What do you make of it?
I really enjoyed that video that she made. She basically goes into how like depictions of trans and non-binary people in the media aren't technically homophobic, but
technically in heavy air quotes.
Yeah, the biggest you can do. But they sort of, I can't think of the word. They encourage the thought process of like, these people are quite dangerous, and also look at this. They're also part of this community. What could that mean? Much to think about.
I think Lindsay was quite good about pointing out that the reason it's not technically transphobic or homophobic or what have you is because they're going, oh yeah, but see, it's a cis man and he's dressing up as a pervert. He's in women's clothes, so he's a pervert. And it's like, yeah, but you're not helping like actual trans women who are women. Let's not forget, they're not men dressing up in dresses. And you're also making these big proclamations of, oh, well, the thing is, we know it's not you. You have the right to live. But, if you are a cis man that dresses up like a lady, A, that's a bit weird. And B, you could just walk into women's bathrooms. And I feel like going, if cis men want to walk into women's bathrooms and commit assault, they don't have to dress up first. They could just walk in.
They're not gonna get their gender changed.
No.
Just so they can walk into a bathroom and assault someone.
They're not going to go through 3 years of gender reassignment clinics just to go and commit an assault. That's not what's going to happen.
Not. Yeah, it's just baffling to me.
It's remarkable.
People think.
Because she also quotes J.K. Rowling's book, the one where she has a quote-unquote cis man dressing up like a woman to commit murders and things because he gets access to safe lady spaces. And it's one of those things where I haven't read the book because I cannot face giving that woman any money. But any more money, I should say. Used to give her a lot of money. But they literally read out quotes of it. And they've got H-Bomber Guy reading out aspects of this book. And there are points where he breaks down halfway through because he's like, what the fuck? What? He says, I know you asked me to read this stuff, and I thought there's no way it's going to be this bad. And it's just the way that it's phrased, and it's just so offensive. And you just think, who hurt you? Who hurt you to put this into words and just literally go after the trans community?
Yeah, it's bizarre because when I was growing up, I really, really loved Harry Potter, and I still have a lot of feelings about Harry Potter because it I can't deny that it helped me be the person that I am today.
Yeah.
And that is something that I have to wrestle with a lot, because she who must not be named is a terrible, terrible woman. And the thing is, like, I can kind of understand in a way with the death of the author stuff, where I think that it's a very personal thing to decide whether you can or can't separate the art from the artist.
Yep.
Because, like, for instance, I used to really like Chris Brown's music, but I cannot listen to it now because of
Ditto.
the terrible, terrible things that he's done.
Yeah. If he's on the radio, I switch it off. I can't listen to him.
But I enjoy not so much Harry Potter, just strictly what J.K. Rowling has written, but more the community and the world that she created, and the things that fans make with it themselves. Because I think that for a lot of art, once you put it into the world, it's not yours anymore. It is the property of the fans, and they can interpret it however they like. So, for instance, when I was young and I was trying to figure out who I was and what was going on in this little tiny brain of mine.
Huge brain, massive.
Huge.
Huge.
Galaxy brain.
Galaxy brain.
I think it's the 4th book that she comes into it, but Nymphadora Tonks.
Right. Yeah, I think it's not Goblet of Fire, the other one. Order of the Phoenix, I think.
Oh, right. Was a really important character for me, because I felt that she was like a really good representation for non-binary people.
Okay.
Because she's a metamorphagus, which means she can change her appearance at will.
Yeah.
And she was such a like powerful person, and she always stood up for what was right. She didn't like take crap from anyone. She was just like her beliefs were like at the core of her personality, and they were always the like most important thing. And I can't believe that it's really hard to believe that a character like that could come out of the mind of a woman like J.K. Rowling.
I think that's the bit that probably hurt the most, is the fact that she created this entire world, which its whole thing was about being yourself, being better than, not being judged by where you came from. So, Harry is allegedly this poor boy who lives under the stairs. He's got a terrible family, but he becomes something better. Admittedly, he inherits an awful lot of money, which that's a whole other thing, innit?
And then at the end of the story, she turns him into the wizard police. Yeah.
But it's like, I think Lindsay talks about it in her thing about Tonks as well, in that she talks about, like, she does Tonks wrong in a lot of ways as well. It's like, that whole thing about losing all the colour in her hair when she doesn't get enough werewolf dick was one of the comments.
Yep.
Heteronormative. Tonks must only be with a man, and if she can't get a man, then something is wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right, so there is some final sort of good stuff that I've been looking into since we had a chat last time. So there are some, I don't know if you've seen any of these, but have you seen Pose?
No, I've been meaning to watch it because it's meant to be very, very good.
Okay, so I'm going to send you some homework. I'm going to give you some trans homework.
Thanks.
So basically, Pose, that was on the list because it was produced, written and directed by a trans woman of colour. And it's got multiple trans actors in it, which is incredible. I watched a clip of it and I was like, yes, queen, go on. Because there's this whole thing about one of the trans women stands up to a cis woman to basically...
Oh,
you must have seen the clip.
in a restaurant where she like
Yes.
stands up from the table.
And she's
Yes,
like,
I've
just
seen
because you
that.
got knocked up and daddy paid for an abortion and all this kind of stuff. And it's perfection. I love the idea of it. Sense8, which I didn't watch enough of, I don't think. But that's by the Wachowski sisters, which I didn't even realise. I'd watched a bunch of it.
Yeah, I've seen the first episode, I think,
Mm.
when it first came out, and then you know how media is these days. There's a lot.
Media.
But what I saw, I thought was really good.
Yeah, I need to go back, I think. I think for me, that got tainted because, again, that was like, ex-husband liked it, so you're not allowed to like it.
Yeah, I get
Tainted.
that.
And the last one, well, you also need to see Happier Season because Happier Season is happy, queer Christmas movie. I'm so excited to watch this one. Difficult People. I was struggling to find it yesterday, so I need to have another look. But there's a thing called Difficult People, and there's a trans comedian called Shakina Nafak in it. And she plays a woman called Lola. And Lola's whole thing is she's quite abrasive. And it's like, she's a bit of an arsehole, but it's also like, she's unapologetic. She is who she is. And I think there's a quote from Shakina who was just like, you're going to love her because she's not under anybody. She's not struggling with anything. She's confident with who she is. And she's just a knobhead.
Amazing.
That's the kind of representation we want to see.
Yeah. Exactly. The only thing that I can think of in terms of positive representation is some of you may think I'm losing my marbles a little bit here, but I'm going to say an episode of Black Mirror.
Okay.
Called San Junipero.
I love San Junipero. It's so precious.
It's such a good episode. I don't really want to spoil it. But it's...
Surely you can at this point, because everyone...
Oh, it is, yeah.
Everyone in the LGBT plus community's seen it anyway, because everyone loves it. And also, it's like... it's how old is that now?
That's true. It's basically like a world on the internet where your conscious gets uploaded and you can basically live out your life as you want. And two women meet in the... I can't even remember what it's called, but they meet inside this thing, and it's the loveliest experience.
It's like if Ready Player One wasn't shit.
Yes!
that's what it is. Yeah. If Ready Player One was gayer and not shit, it would be San Junipero.
I have many opinions about Ready Player One. But that's for a different podcast.
Dibble, is there anything else that you would like to get off your chest?
I think maybe on the back of the representation discussion.
Okay.
I think feeling like you have to be the representation that you want to see.
Nice.
Can be more of a burden than anything else, because a lot of the time people kind of like expect things from you if you are like the sole person that's representing what you're representing, you know.
So many questions, Dibbs. That's what you're getting at, innit? So many questions.
Yeah. Like I came out in work after being away for a long time because of my health.
Mm-hmm.
And like I basically came out over the phone to my manager. She hung up, rang me the next day at like 7 a.m. and was like, I didn't ask you your pronouns. What are they? Also, what does cisgender mean? And I was like, whoa! Whoa! And
you were the sole trans teacher at this point.
Yeah. There's also from certain... I don't know how to word this without...
Oh, God.
Getting myself in trouble.
If it's that bad, I'll cut it out of the audio.
Okay. Well, like, this is more for like workplace spaces, I suppose. But there's also sometimes there's an issue when people come out, they are suddenly the token LGBTQ person who has to attend every diversity and inclusion meeting and has to go to all of these special events because they are the LGBTQ person. And it's like, well, I appreciate the opportunities you're giving me. But also I'm just a person.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to live my life.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do. I don't want my job to be any different from how it was before I was away. I just want to be.
Yeah.
I'm basically the same person I was before.
You are the same
I've got
person.
a different haircut.
Yeah.
And my chest is a bit flatter.
Yeah. You're the same
That's
person. You just look a little bit different. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good.
Exactly.
Okay.
But that's it, I think.
All right. Where can people find you on the internet, DarnItDibble?
They can find me in various places on the internet at the handle DarnItDibble. I am on Twitch and Instagram and Twitter, I believe. I think I'm in those places. I'm hoping to be streaming a bit more.
Okay.
Hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be doing fundraising streams once a month.
Oh, amazing. Do you know who you're going to be fundraising for?
Yeah, the first fundraising stream that I'm going to do, hopefully in the first couple of weeks of May, is for a community interest company called Heads Above the Waves, who are a group of people who raise money for and do workshops on how to deal with depression and self-harm. And they're a group of people that are really important to me. They helped me a lot when I was trying to figure myself out and dealing with a lot of emotions and feelings that I didn't really know what to do with.
Yeah.
They're lovely, lovely people. Their goal is to create merch with a message.
Okay.
So the main guy behind it, Sai, his idea was basically like, you know, with band t-shirts and stuff, like when you see a person wearing a t-shirt that has a band that you listen to on it, you're like, oh, that person's cool. I could probably have a conversation with them if I wanted to. He wanted to do the same thing with but with mental health and mental health positivity. So all of the designs are focused around that. Like they have a t-shirt and a hoodie that says self-love is punk rock.
Nice. Nice.
There's a sweater that they have that says I'm glad you exist along the sleeves.
I've seen that. I love that one.
Yeah. They've got like loads of accessories and stuff as well. I got some pronoun badges from them. I can only find the one, but there it is. if you can see.
What does it say?
It says
they.
I go by they.
I go by they.
I've got one that says I go by he as well. There's somewhere around here. But anyway, like they.
So for audio people, it's badges that say I go by they and I go by he. Because Dibbs, they can't see the screen.
I know how podcasts work. But yeah, they don't make any money off the merch that they sell. All of the money goes towards working on the workshops that they create and helping young people deal with their issues. So hopefully next month I will be raising some money for them. So
amazing. Cool. Okay, I look forward to that. Thank you for joining me today, my lovely DarnItDibble. And then we will catch up again soon.
Hey,
see you soon. Bye, love you too. That was No Straight Answers with this week's guest, the adorable DarnItDibble. What an absolute sweetheart. If you want to find him all over the internet, his details will be in the description below. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch you next week. Bye!